Hello YouTube viewers, hope you're all doing good and welcome to this video. This video is part of the CheckMK monitoring series, and in this video I'll show you how you can configure LDAP for CheckMK authentication. So far we've seen in this series how to install CheckMK, how to create a site, how you can start a site, accessing the dashboard, adding clients to monitoring, and doing a simple service checks, and also writing your own custom service checks using Bash script, Python script, and so on. Okay, so and in this video, we'll see how we can use how we can configure LDAP authentication. For this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an Ubuntu 18.04 server, and I'm going to install CheckMK on it. Um, and then I'm going to use a Docker container to run OpenLDAP service on my host machine. So if I cd to play directory and git clone my OMD monitoring repository, and I'll put the link in the description. If you want, if you want to follow along this video, you can check out that Git repository. cd to OMD monitoring, and then to Vagrant provisioning. Vagrant up. So by default, this Vagrant up command will provision 4 virtual machines, 2 Ubuntu 18.04 and 2 CentOS 7 machines. But for this demo purpose, I just need one server where I'm going to install CheckMK. So I'm going to power up Ubuntu VM01, and while this machine is coming up, um, I'm going to run the Docker container to start the LDAP service. cd to play, and in the OMD monitoring directory, in the miscellaneous directory, you will see the OpenLDAP Docker. So cd to OpenLDAP Docker, and there you will see the Docker Compose file. So let's take a look at the Docker Compose file. So basically, I'm running two services within this Docker Compose. One is the OpenLDAP service itself, exposing port 389 on my host machine. So I'm using this image here, version 1.2.3, and some environment variables. It's just the organization's name. LDAP domain is example.com, and the initial admin password will be admin. I'm also running a PHP LDAP admin service just to access the LDAP service using a web interface. So that will be easier for us to create users and groups using web interface. And I'm not running the SSL version of OpenLDAP. I'm just running it in plain text, which is port 389. Otherwise, it will be port 636 if you want a secure LDAP service. But for this demo purpose, let's go with the 389 port. Okay, and all I have to do is Docker compose up, and let's put -t to run it in the background. Okay, so that's running, and if I do sudo netstat -nlcp grep 389, so we have that Docker proxy 389 and port 8080, so that's there. Okay, so now we should be able to access the OpenLDAP service. Let's go to the web browser and do localhost :8080. Okay, so that's the OpenLDAP PHP LDAP admin interface. I'm going to log in, and the administrator password is the DN distinguished name is cn equals admin, dc equals example, dc equals com, and the password is admin because that's what I set in my Docker Compose file. Authenticate, and we are now in DC example, so you don't have any entries here apart from the manager entry. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to create few users and groups to demonstrate how you can make use of that in your CheckMK instance. Either you can create it here manually, or I've got an LDIF file, LDAP data interchange format, I think, and in the same directory here, there is this LD file. And if you take a look at that file, what I've got here is I'm creating a couple of organizational units, because that's how you structure your content, you structure your data inside the LDAP. So you create organizational unit. So I'm creating one OU for groups and one OU for users, and I'm creating 3 different users, and I'm placing them in 2 different groups. So that's the LD file. And if I show you the picture here, okay, so I'm creating 2 OUs, users and groups. I'm creating 3 users. I don't know why I came up with these names, but Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and George Bush are 3 users, and I'm going to create 2 groups, sysadmins and dev. So Barack Obama will be in the sysadmin group, and these 2 guys will be in the dev group. Okay, so that's the idea. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so um, let me open up my text editor. So that's the content of the LD file. I'm going to copy that content. And back in the PHP LDAP admin, so there is a section called import, and if you click that, you can either choose the file yourself or you can paste the content here. So I'm pasting the content here, and if I click proceed, you can see that all are success. So it has created all the entries for us. OU, so we've got 2 groups, dev and sysadmins, and we've got 3 users, Obama, Trump, and George Bush. So if I select one entry here, you can see what sort of attributes I've got for these records. So that's the CN, common name, display name. I've got an email attribute, given name, object class. I've set a password. Basically, password is same as the username, Barack Obama, B Obama, and the SN username is B Obama, which is same as the password. Okay, so 3 users and 2 groups. Let's go back to the terminal and install checkmk. Okay, let's log into that VM, vagrant SSH Ubuntu VM01. And first thing first, let's update the apt cache repository. apt-get update. Okay, so now let's install GDB core. Sudo apt-get install GDB core. So because we need GDB, because we're going to install the checkmk package using GDB, we need to install this package first, GDB core, which I've talked about in the installation video. So now let's head back to checkmk page and to the download section. Let's pick the latest table 150, and for version Ubuntu 18.04. So let's right click, copy the link address, and back in the VM I'm gonna do wget and paste that. I don't know why it's having all these rubbish. Okay, so I'm downloading that. Okay, so that's downloaded, and now let's install it. Sudo gdb checkmk. Okay, press Y to confirm. Alright, checkmk is installed. Let's check the version. Sudo omd version. Okay, so we are on version 1.5.0. I'm going to create a site. Sudo omd create monitoring. And I'm going to copy this temporary password for the admin user cmk admin. And we need to start the site monitoring. Okay, so that's started, and it's going to take a few seconds before we can access it in the web browser. Okay, so I've got Ubuntu VM01's IP address added to my etc host file. If you don't have it, feel free to enter the IP address here. Ubuntu VM 01/monitoring. Okay, the username is cmkadmin and the password is what I copied. Okay, so that's a clean looking dashboard now. Okay, so what we are about to do here is to configure LDAP. And for that, we're going to go into Users and LDAP Connections. Click on New Connection. Um, that's just an ID. You can give any ID if you any ID you like. So I'm going to give LDAP. And LDAP connection, Active Directory, no. It's going to be Open LDAP, and the LDAP server address is my host machine, which is 192.168.1.10, 192.168.1.10. Bind credentials, so that's the manager credentials that we need. So I've got cn equals admin, dc equals example, dc equals com, and the bind password is admin. So since I'm running it on the port 389, I don't have to do any other configuration. But if you're running on port 636, you can check the port, TCP port, and change that to 636 and check use SSL option. Okay, for me that's necessary, that's sufficient. Um, what you can do is at each step you can verify whether your settings are working fine. So at this point, I'm not going to add any other configuration. I'm just going to save and test it. So when I do that, on the right side, you can see the connection was successful. So we can confirm that the CheckMK instance can connect to our LDAP server using the bind credentials. So the connection is successful. So now let's go to the users section. OU equals users, DC equals example, DC equals com. So that's all needed in this section in my case. But in your case, if you've got an LDAP service in your organization, what you might want to do is if you've got multiple users, and you can use search filter basically to group them or whatever you want. So in my case, it's just simple 3 users in one single organizational unit, OU. Okay, and now let's go and test it. Save and test. And you can see it has found the user base DN and it has found 3 users. So that's well and good. And now let's go to the groups configuration. So here, OU equals groups, DC equals example, DC equals com. Okay. Member attribute. So that one is a bit important. If I go to my PHP LDAP admin and click on one of the group, and you can see that's the attribute name. So for us, the attribute name is member. Depending on your LDAP configuration, if you've got an attribute name that's different to member, you need to specify here member attribute. For example, you might have it something like maybe carp member or whatever you defined your in your LDAP service. So the default is member, and I don't have to specify that. And the other thing I need to do is search filter. So it says object class is group. It's not going to find. So let me show you. If I don't specify the search filter here, group based DN is OU groups, DC equals example, DC equals com. Let's save and test it. The group DN is okay. It has found the group DN, but it didn't find any groups. We had dev and sysadmins group, but it didn't fetch it. That's because we have to specify a search filter. It says object class is group. If I go to PHP LDAP admin, you can see the object class is group of names. So change that to group of names. And now if I do save and test, you can see it has found 2 groups for synchronization. So that's all needed. And if you want to do some custom synchronization, what you can do is um, I'm going to uncheck this one because I don't have the authentication expiration for my user. So if I go in here, if I select one of the user, I don't have that authentication expiration attribute. I've only got CN, display name, email, given name, and so on. So when it does an LDAP sync, it will show us an error. So I uncheck that one. Email address, we've got email, so that should populate okay. But if you've got a different email attribute name instead of email, you can specify here. By default, it's the mail. That's okay. Let's leave that to default. Okay, at this point, all the users this LDAP synchronization finds under OU user DC equals example DC equals com will be a standard user, not an admin user. And if you want to specify a particular group to have administrative privilege, this is where you need to specify roles and check administrator, add a new element, and here I'm going to specify CN equals sysadmins, OU equal groups, DC equals example, DC equals com. So under the OU groups, I want the sysadmins to have all the members, all the users in the sysadmin groups should have administrator privilege on this checkmk instance. So at the moment, we only have Barack Obama under this group. So if you add more and more users to this group, they all will have admin privilege on your checkmk. Okay, so let's save. Since we made lots of changes and tested it, there are 5 changes to apply. Activate the affected change. Okay, so now if I go to users, last user synchronization ran into an exception. Okay, let's do a sync again. Okay, that looks cool. Um, okay, so Donald Trump, George Bush, Barack Obama. Barack Obama should be an administrator. At the moment, it's showing the roles are all normal monitoring user. Okay, let's see why that's the case. Go back to users, sync users, still normal users. Okay, let's go to LDAP connections, edit the LDAP connection, and let's check what's missing. CN equals sysadmins, OU equals groups, DC example, DC com. That looks okay. Member attribute, select member, save. One change, activate affected. Go to users, sync users. Okay. Okay, let's do that one more time. LDAP, I'm gonna remove this administrator. Save. One change, activate affected users. Okay, let's delete this user and resync it. Sync users. I don't know why this one is. That's because we removed them from the administrator role. Okay, so let's do that again. Users. Let's delete that. All sites authorized normal user password. The password cannot be changed. It's locked by the user connection. That's okay. Users. Delete it. Oh, I keep clicking the edit icon. So delete it. Yes. Sync users. Delete. LDAP connections. Edit the LDAP connection. Add the role administrator. Add a new element. cn equals sysadmin, ou equals group, save, for changes, activate affected, go back to users and do a sync again. Um, I don't know why. So this should be the Barack Obama should be in administrator role. Okay, let's do that once more. LDAP connection. Let's delete this LDAP connection as activate affected. Okay, so now if I go back to users, let's delete them. Delete and delete. Okay, activate affected. Go back to users. So we haven't got anything now. Let's create the LDAP connection from the scratch. ID, let's go with LDAP. Active directory is open LDAP. Directory type, and it's 192.168.1.10. Bind credentials, and the password is admin. Users, OU equals users. Okay, search scope, search filter, user ID. I don't need those. OU equals group. Search whole subtree below the base DN. Search filter. Group of names. Member attribute is member. I'm going to remove the authentication expiration and set the roles. Administrator, add a new element. cn equals sysadmins, OU groups, DC example, DC com. That looks good. Save. One change, activate affected. Go back to users and do a sync. Cool, that's what I wanted. I don't know why it didn't work the first time. So now we can see Barack Obama, since he's in the sysadmins group, and since we added him to the administrator role, and he's now an administrator. Donald Trump and George Bush are on the dev group, and we haven't added them to the admin role, so they are a normal monitoring user. One change, activate affected. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try logging in as these three users just to see if the username and password works from the OpenLDAP. Let's do George Bush first. G Bush. Okay, so now I'm logged in as George Bush. And on the left, you don't see many configurations because he's a normal user. Let's log out and log in as Donald Trump. D Trump. Login. And again, he is a part of dev group and he's not an admin, and you don't see any configuration objects here. Let's log out and log in as Barack Obama. B Obama. And I've logged in as Barack Obama without any issues. And on the left here, you see all the objects here because he's an admin. If I go to users, you can see I'm Barack Obama, administrator, and basically the email attributes have all been synced from your OpenLDAP service. Okay, cool. I think that's all I wanted to show you in this video. It took a bit longer than expected. Sorry about the issue that I had. When I was trying this before recording this video, it worked perfectly fine. But always, whenever you show something to someone, the demo god might sometimes stand in your way. Okay, anyway, but at least I'm glad that I was able to resolve at the end. So this is how you use OpenLDAP to configure authentication in your CheckMK instance. I hope you will be able to follow along this video. And if you've got any questions or comments, please leave me a comment and I should be able to respond to you. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I've got few more videos about the CheckMK um, planned. It'll be once every week on Monday. I think so far I've done like 6 videos and I've got another 2 or 3 planned. So stay tuned, watch for this space, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.